Hello. Let's give this a minute or two. Hi. Hello, Kaza. So I'm going to give this a second. Have a few more of you join in, and we should proceed. All right. Hey. Okay. It's been a while since since our last live. Well, actually, it's been a while since our only other live, and well, plenty's happened since, really. As some of you may know, we've got our first art exhibition taking place in Equatorial Guinea this year, and it has a very interesting roster of artists with such as Sheila today. Just give me a second. I'm going to have Sheila join in. Okay. Huh. Okay. Hey, Sheila.
Hello. It's good to see you. It's very well.
Good to
How are
see
you
you.
doing?
I'm very well as well. However, I don't see you. I'm going.
1
I
minute.
think it'll be Hi.
Okay. Hello. It's good to
Hi.
see you.
It's good to
Yes.
see you as well. Well, to many, I may not have to introduce Sheila because we've observed that Sheila has her own following of admirers. And I understand why, because in the little time that I've had a chance to, the little chance I've had to spend time with her, and that too online, I find myself very inspired and I find myself very impressed. So, however, I'm sure there may be a few who probably are not as familiar with Sheila. And for their sake, I'm going to give you a short introduction of Sheila and her work. Um, uh, so Sheila Fuseini's artwork can be described as metaphorical doors and windows, inviting the viewer to zero in on a piece and explore it viscerally. Though the narrative of her work is often personal, she tends to leave it open-ended for viewers to find themselves within her work and also, therefore, within her experience. Right. So the intention of this session today is to get to know Sheila better, to get to know her work better, and to get a deeper dive into what inspires her with her abstracts. And the best way to do so is obviously question and answers. And we're obviously very open to all of your answers and we may take those on once we're done with the basics. And yes, shall we proceed, Sheila? Do you have a message you want to start off with? Hello.
Okay.
Are we
I
back?
lost you just a little bit. I hope I can hear. Yes.
Mm-hmm. You're good. You're good. So yes, shall we proceed with the questions? Okay. Okay. So as you just described, uh, can you tell me more about these metaphorical
I think
doors
so.
and windows in your art? Sorry?
I think we can dive into it. That's what I said.
Super. Super. So, as I just described Sheila's work, she speaks of metaphorical doors and windows that she invites her viewers into. So, can you give us a little more about these said metaphorical doors and windows, and also how is it that you expect your viewers to experience your art?
Okay. So basically, I use the concept of doors and windows because they're the most ready examples I can find that could lead one into another space. Say you're looking outside a window or you're walking through a door into another space. So
We've lost you again, Sheila.
trying as much as possible mind and the emotions.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. We did lose you a little bit in there, but I'm sure the network would support with time.
I hope so.
Okay. And well, it's not always in our hands, is it? So you also mentioned that you often leave your works open-ended for your viewers. So,
Exactly.
for them to interpret the works in their own manner. How's that? Can you expand on that, please?
Yes. Personally, I feel that when we name objects or anything, feelings or experiences, when we put a label on them, it sort of hinders various, a variety of, you know, experiences. It
Mm-hmm.
limits it for the viewer, and they are not able to go past the predetermined meaning that has been put on it. So I would love to leave it open-ended so that for the first time when they are experiencing it, it's very likely that they will have their own perception of what they are seeing or experiencing before they learn
Yes.
that of any other person's, and in this case, my own. So basically, that's it.
Hmm. So, so what you want your viewers to read your works emotionally and not with the associated semantics of it. Okay.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, Sheila, in one of our conversations, you also mentioned, and I quote, I believe on some level, as humans, we are all connected,
Yes.
and it is this connection that I seek to honor and hopefully enhance for myself and the viewers with my work. How exactly do you mean this?
So, on that connection level, I think that it's well deeper than we observe, and I would like to say that human beings, as I have come to believe, are multifaceted. So we have our physical aspects, which is very easy to see and experience, but I do believe that on even maybe deeper than emotional level, we are all connected somehow. We can, and
Hmm.
this can even be evident on how we share various common feelings, so that
Hmm.
when if someone is feeling pain, even without exchanging words or the person telling you exactly how they're feeling, you can relate, sort of. So on
Hmm.
that level, I think
Hmm.
we are deeply connected and we interact, whether we observe it or not. Yes.
That's very nice.
And
That's very good. So, um, a second question to that would be, so when you speak of this connection, do you mean it spiritually, or are you probably speaking about it in more of a Carl Jung's collective, un was it collective unconscious? Is that how you're talking about it, or do you mean it more spiritually?
exactly, exactly as you've put it. But I do stay away from using the word spiritual because, in my experience, it's given way for people to misconstrue what the intention is, because it's likely to be affiliated with religion, and I feel that's a bit limiting. Uh, so I try to stay away from that. However, I do not take that away from the meaning of I mean, from the level on which we can be connected. Yes, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, all of those. And especially as you mentioned, Carl Jung's work on the collective unconscious,
Hmm.
he speaks of a part of the brain that we all share in common. And if I'm not
Hmm.
mistaken, I think he goes ahead to speak on how the part of the memory, sorry, part of the brain inherits memories, and these are not basically they are not memories of images or defined forms, but even physical experiences that we have can trigger us to go into that. And there's the literature about that. And yes, I do not deny that that has been an influence on my belief on our level of connectedness. So yes.
That's true. So this is to the audience. What I personally find really interesting about Sheila's work is okay. So Sheila, take a hint. If I had the opportunity to own one of her works, and even though she speaks of abstract, I believe even if you don't intentionally plan to bring in any semantics, a lot of whatever you would depict will be based on something that you've seen or you've experienced, and therefore there will be a reflection. Now, similarly, for me, if I had the opportunity to own one of your artworks, and let's say, I wake up every morning, the piece is in front of my bed, and I would wake up and see this piece, and I would associate it based on resonances that I have through my own childhood or through my own memories or nostalgia. So, for instance, the other day we were speaking about forests, right? I understand that. Imagine that you try to paint an experience of you being in a forest when you were probably 10-year-old, and the solitude of it, the serene of it, the quiet of it, and you manage to put that down on your canvas, or in your case, you put that down with your acrylics or even leather. And when I see it, it would probably remind me of that 7-year-old me who was at a forest with my own family. And somehow this painting brings you and I together on that journey in that forest, even though we've probably never spoken with each other, or even if I did not really know you as a person. And we take that journey together. And that's beautiful.
Exactly.
I understand the connection is so beautiful, right? It does not have to be verbal. It does not have to be physical. And
Exactly.
it's not spiritual, but yeah, it is still there. And
Exactly. Exactly.
that's very interesting.
Yeah.
So, okay, to move further, you can you share more about the focus on achieving a feeling or on a visceral level that, as you mentioned, rather than realistic depictions or yes, through objects.
Okay. So this hinders on what I mentioned earlier about allowing the viewer to have their experience devoid of the predetermined meaning. But also, I feel that feelings are a deeper way of connecting and interacting. It's also, in my opinion, a very universal language where you don't have to speak my language to know that I'm feeling pain or that I'm feeling happy. So I feel that if I attempt to depict a feeling, I would be speaking to a greater audience, and on that note, I would be connecting with more people universally and globally. So
That is true.
Yes.
Okay. So, to whoever may have had a chance to see your works and study your portfolio, one would notice that you have a love for color, which is rather evident in your paintings. Is that a conscious choice, or is it just a tendency?
Well, it is a conscious choice. Well, one, because I'm an artist, I can hardly stay away from color. That basically would have informed my choice of career. But also, I feel that color has its own language. It speaks a language common to that of the feelings. It's universal as well, just like music. And I feel that when I use this with my knowledge of art, the basic principles and elements, and my own, creativity, I feel that I speak a universal language. So I try to manipulate it in a way that that would speak my language, but universally, so that this is Sheila speaking, but speaking in a language that anybody else can understand.
That's true. That's very interesting. So, besides color, one more thing that's rather evident in your work is the mark making and the textures. Your textures are rather unique. Are those also intentionally so, or it's a find, or it's coincidental?
So it's both intentional and coincidental, because intentional because when I work, when I make marks, especially when I'm painting with acrylics, I can say that the marks are on some level intentional because I intend to draw a line, so I draw a line, and I could correct it if I didn't want it. But on another level, because I work in layers, by the time I'm done, all of these marks may be covered or maybe may appear as different marks as I intended to put them. And combined with that and color, I think that form image. They end up forming images or bringing out a scene, sort of, in the painting that wasn't intended in the beginning. With the texture, it's just I think I find resonance with texture that is I feel is a bit dramatic and it's engaging. So it's just a question of choice and preference when I choose materials based on texture, like in the case of the leather work. But I wouldn't say it's a strong, influence to why I choose my materials.
But knowing you, seeing how you engage your emotions, seeing how you engage your thoughts, your mind, and also your process. I believe somewhere the tactile of the material may probably be something that I mean I'm assuming this because I see that you're very thorough about every choice that you've made about your painting, and I feel that the textures add to your not just visual capacity of the painting, but also a tactile feel of it. So
Yes, that's right. That's right. And you put it better than I do because I
I hear
do
you. So
find yes, I do find leather to be, it is textured, but I like the fact that textured. If I
hmm.
make sense over there, yes, it's textured, but it's subtle. Yeah, so I think I find resonance with that, and maybe that's why I chose it. I will find out soon. Yeah.
However, speaking of aggressively, this brings me to my next question. You've also mentioned that you use leather off-cut and the concept of picking up the pieces, which hold significant meaning to you. Could you elaborate on how this phase goes beyond literal interpretation for your works?
Yes. Well, literally, it would be to pick up the pieces of what's left of from production companies when they produce furniture and bags and all of that. And that's, I think that's very obvious to everyone. But the concept of picking up the pieces came to me while I was going through a life experience challenge, so to speak, which was a personal relationship with somebody. And while I tried to make my relationship with this person better, all avenues proved to be futile. So it led me into researching on how I could find fulfilling and maybe wholesome or even sustainable ways of having better relationships. So it led me down the path of trauma and healing and, taking the gems from the experience, looking at the bright side of the challenge and putting that together, putting whatever lessons I learned together, creating for myself a better life. And based on that, I could have a, better feeling or a better concept of relationships. So, of course, I was practicing art at the same time. So I think that and as I would have it, my art is a reflection of my life. So I think that that was just coincidental, and I felt that that was a strong, sustainable way of the next part. The next step in my career. So I put that into experimentation and picking up those pieces, those leather pieces, which I found were gems because leather is it's a very prestigious, so to speak, material. And those offcuts were not, the value of the offcut is not uh, reduced just because it's a
It's
sub
yeah.
the main one, yeah, leather offcut. So I felt that I could make something valuable out of it, just like I did in my life. And so that has been the root of that practice and that concept.
It's good. Well, you've done a much better job of taking care of your dark relationships and bringing in the silver lining. I really just found myself dark circles after it. Yeah. If only, right? I wish my relations made me a better artist or taught me to, explore my art further. If,
I'm
uh,
pretty sure it made you better in some other aspects. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So, you also mentioned, speaking of your material, you'd also
Mm,
mentioned that your current body of work explores and masters the use of tool fabric and mesh
exactly.
over just leather. What inspired this exploration beyond your, you know, earlier practice?
Okay, so this basically is it's a I would say it's a growth in my career. I
Mm-hmm.
got to a point where I was starting to work bigger, and the
Mm-hmm.
dynamism of the material I was using then was very limiting. I was using wooden panels for the leather, for the paintings too, but the painting was not too much of a challenge. I mean, I can only paint on what I have, but I wanted to work in much larger sizes with the leather, and that was constraining. So I tried with many other substrates like the canvas, which didn't work too well. So from my sister's studio, she's a fashion designer, so she works with the two fabric, and I thought it was a good material to at least experiment with. So I researched on the properties, and I found that they could be a good substrate. So I tried it for the first few pieces, smaller pieces, and I found that I could expand even if I worked on a smaller piece. They
Mm-hmm.
it was yes, it was very easy for me to join other smaller pieces and eventually make it bigger. And also, I was thinking of the longevity of the material, which is the leather. It needs, yes, the properties propose that they be aerated a little bit so that the leather can breathe because it's skin, it's organic, and we need all of that aeration for it to last long. And I felt that the tool was a very good one, as it's a mesh and has a lot of air going through it.
Mm-hmm.
And also transporting it has become, like 90% easier and lighter. Yes, in many aspects, be it a short distance or long distance. So that is the ongoing experiment that I have with the material, and I think so far so good. It served me well. So
Okay. So once again, to the audience, uh, what I find very interesting about your work again, Sheila, is I like that it represents your surroundings. It talks about what you have around yourself. Like you mentioned, your sister's studio had some material, you explored that. So while your work is very personal, it talks about you. It also, in a very interesting manner, talks about your surroundings. You've kept it personal, and yet you speak about how you want it to be very universal and something that all your viewers or your audiences would connect to. You've also spoken of, you also speak of how you're very conscious of what material you're using, what color you're using. You, you put your thought behind what you're doing. You're well researched. But at the same time, you've let there be sufficient scope for discovery, for playfulness, and maybe coincidences. And I like how you figured both sides of the aspects and that in a very interesting way. And I would say that on a personal level and also about your work, it reflects really well. It speaks about Sheila in its entirety. So, congratulations.
thank you.
So, once again, speaking of Sheila, and I believe identity is also something that's very important to you as a subject matter through your artworks, and at least a lot of your artworks weave around this subject matter. Would you care to expand on that a little?
Okay, so the identity part is on many levels, there's a little bit of an interaction. I hope we're still on. Okay.
I can hear you now. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So social anxiety, for the most part, has been a challenge in my life. So I felt that you know, it's easier for me to communicate with my work and to find answers to certain questions that I ask myself. And so building an identity for myself has been it's been strong in my work, but not so much in my life. So I used the art as a channel for communication, so that it's a I put it in this way, that my art tends to be I treat it like a friend. So speaking to it and getting feedback from it has helped me improve a way of communicating. And also my art has been, at least the subject matter, has been a point of communication status. So it's helped me, you know, overcome that anxiety a little bit. And I also feel that if I am able to, on the canvas, if I'm able to determine what works for me and what doesn't work for me, I get to know myself better, and I get to build a strong identity of myself, and I get to show up as myself. So in my work and in my life, I get to have an identity, and I think that's the best way I can relate or connect with other people. If I know my identity, then I can, yes, I can relate with other identities.
Oh, that's very true. That's very true. That's very well put. So I'm assuming this is something that evolved with time, right? This is something that
Exactly.
as you grew, as your art grew, this came to being. So do you believe your art practice has evolved over the years? Or
Exactly.
and if so, how?
Exactly. Okay. So the evolution hasn't always been very apparent, in that I haven't exhibited work on everything I've experimented on. So it's evolved on many levels. I will speak of the subject matter, for example, has evolved from, you know, just trying to make art pieces to please the audience, or trying to determine what is trending, or what people would love to see or would love to hang in their rooms. From that to being very centered and determining for myself what works for me, what do I find appealing, or what do I find uh, resonance with in art, what art makes me feel good about my creativity, myself, and my identity. So in that sense, it has moved. And even at a point, it got a little bit rebellious. And that was when I was, you know, transitioning from a religious background. And that wasn't very easy on my family. So I started practicing art based on that, you know, trying to justify why I was right and they were wrong. But like I said, not all the work from my history has been exhibited or shown. So that was a very short-lived period, but that has also transitioned into lesson learning rather than trying to rebel ideas. So if I didn't agree with something, it would be a point of learning for me, rather than, you know, trying to push against what was offered to me. Yes, so on that level, yes, it has evolved. And then materially, I think on some level it's very obvious to audience that I have moved from drawing to paper collage to, I have even tried drywall sculpture, and yes, and eventually. But I think that I like to think that I'm a very fast decision maker. If there's anything like that, I decide very quickly that this is working for me or this is not working for me, and I quickly move away from it if it's not. So so the leather has been, I think, the longest that I've experimented with, and I think that that's where I am now. And obviously, the experimenting with the two is where we are now. So, yeah, that's on the evolution part.
So what's next? Where do you expect to be?
Well,
Where do you think?
so uh, I am working, of course, like I said, I'm still working with the two. I'm working on how I can even diversify the appearance, the physical appearance of the work, in that I could have parts of it, hollow in the middle while still holding the work together. This is very theoretical, but I'm sure that eventually when I do, I'll be able to express myself better. But also, I'm working on the identity part of it, where I find that I uh, I have identified myself enough, but I think that how I show up is a little bit a shadow of what I have determined for myself. In that, um, I think I'm working on how to represent myself in a more stronger way, if that makes sense, in a stronger way, so that make my convictions very apparent. Or, for example, if I believed in what we call God, it should show in my work. I think that I should be a stronger advocate of what I believe in. Yes, I think that's where I'm going. I should be a stronger advocate of what I believe in my work, because yes, that has been a journey in my life as well. So I believe that eventually it's going to reflect in my work. So that's where we are going. And well, the rest is left to fate.
And good job. Like you're going well, and I wish you good luck for times to come. And I'm also very excited to show with you in EG, and hopefully we'll get to meet in person then. And until then, I'd like to say thank you for today.
Thank you.
I appreciate you taking time out, and thank you for opening your audience to the wonderful world of art that you offer, and to give us a peep into your metaphorical doors and windows. And
Exactly.
and I'd like to thank our audience for for being here, and we hope to hear from the rest of you soon as well. Um, uh, So whoever's interested, we have Sheila's works on display on our website, that is www.tar.co.uk. And for those who can make it to EG, we'll keep you posted about when the show is scheduled. And we'll hopefully get to see those works in person and probably experience them a little better than you would probably do online. Um, so Sheila, and we're also open to commission works for clients or collectors who are interested in something that is specifically designed for them, or that is something specifically made for their preference. However, we would obviously require a little more time in that, but that's something we're looking at as well, as an agency. And for those who may be interested, please reach out to me on info@tower.co.uk. And you see you guys more often. And thank you once again, Sheila.
Thank you, Pratiti, and thank you everybody who joined. It was fun.
It was fun. Thank you. And always a pleasure, Sheila. All right. See you. Thank you.
See
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye. Thank you.